A client was describing a conflict with a colleague, and I said, when I hear you talk about this, it sounds like there's a strong value of fairness coming through. What do you think? She paused and said, I've never named it that way, but you're right. Fairness matters to me more than almost anything. That moment shifted everything, because once she named that value, she could see why this conflict was hitting her so hard and what she actually needed to resolve it. Here's what's fascinating about values. Clients often don't recognize what's driving their reactions. Values operate beneath conscious awareness. They shape decisions invisibly. Your client might feel strongly about something without knowing exactly why. That's where you come in. When you can name what you observe, when you can surface a value the client hasn't articulated, you create something powerful. Naming values creates breakthrough moments. When a client hears their value named out loud, something clicks. Recognition shifts everything. Your role is to surface what the client can't yet see. Your observations illuminate the invisible forces guiding their choices and reactions. The marker we're working with says the coach asks questions about the client, such as their way of thinking, values, needs, wants, and beliefs. Notice that values are explicitly named here alongside thinking, needs, wants, and beliefs. This is core exploration territory for coaching. But here's what I want you to see. This isn't just about questioning. It includes making observations. It may also be making observations like, when I hear you talk about this, it sounds like there's a strong value of justice that's coming out. What do you think? You're expected to notice and name what you observe about client values, not just ask questions and wait for them to figure it out themselves. So how do you actually observe values in action? Listen for energy. Notice topics your client returns to repeatedly, defends passionately, or becomes emotional about. Energy, whether positive or negative, signals values at work. Notice what's absent. What's missing from the conversation often reveals what matters most. Silence around certain topics can be as telling as words. Track language patterns. Words like should, must, always, never, these often signal values. These absolute statements point to deeply held beliefs. And follow frustration and passion. Both strong frustration and deep passion point directly to underlying values. When clients feel strongly, values are present. When you're ready to share what you've noticed, framing matters. Start with tentative language. Use phrases like, it sounds like, or when I hear you talk about this, it seems like. This offers an observation rather than a diagnosis. Then name the value you're observing. Be specific and direct in naming what you notice while remaining open to being wrong. And always invite response. Follow with, how does that resonate? Or what do you think? This creates space for the client to explore. Put it together and it sounds like this. When I hear you talk about this, it sounds like there's a strong value of fairness coming through. What do you think? That's the complete move. Tentative framing, specific value, invitation to respond. Let me name a few things that can trip you up here. First, making observations sound like diagnoses. There's a big difference between you value fairness and sounds like there might be a value of fairness here. One is an assessment, the other is an offering. Second, getting attached to being right. Your observation is a tool for exploration, not a verdict to defend. If the client says, no, that's not quite it, that's useful information, not failure. Third, forgetting the invitation. If you make an observation without creating space for the client to respond and explore, you've just delivered a pronouncement. And fourth, stating values as fact rather than offering them tentatively for the client to consider. So here's what I want you to remember. Values are often implicit, Your job is to name what you observe and invite exploration. Bringing values into awareness is transformative for your clients. Hold your observations lightly. They must be offered, not imposed. Tentative language creates safety for exploration. And here's something that might surprise you. Even when you're wrong, you help. If your observation misses the mark, if you name fairness and the client says, no, it's actually about respect, you've still opened a door to deeper conversation and discovery. That's the power of naming values. Right or wrong, it invites the client to look deeper. Next, we'll explore what happens when your client's thinking is bounded, when they need help seeing beyond their current view of what's possible.